Honorable Minister of State for External Affairs, General V.K. Singh, Excellencies, members of the Diplomatic Corps, members of IDSA's Executive Council, distinguished speakers, members of the strategic community, friends from the media, ladies and gentlemen. It gives me great pleasure to welcome you all to IDSA's first annual West Asia Conference. This is the first in the series, and we hope to continue in the years to come. The theme of this year's conference is geopolitical shifts in West Asia, trends and implications. The objective of the conference is to develop an understanding about the rapidly changing political, security and strategic environment in West Asia, and to understand the implications for the security of the region. The conference will also deliberate upon India's relationship with West Asia and its policy options for engaging more proactively with the region. As you are aware, the region is going through several severe turmoil starting from December 2010 after the incident of self-immolation by a Tunisian youth. Ever since then, the situation in the region has regressed in many ways. The expectations of a peaceful democratic transition in North Africa and the Gulf region have been belied, and the situation in Syria, Iraq and Libya has actually deteriorated further. The rise of ISIS, which was not included in the concept note because the full dimensions of it were not cleared by then, has emerged as a grave threat to regional peace and stability, and it has added a new dimension to the conflict scenario in the region. The geopolitical alliances, which are as it is ever shifting in West Asia, are under severe strain, and the boundaries of the states are sought to be redrawn in a manner that the conflict may be perpetuated for many years to come. The external powers in the region are always blamed, and sometimes rightly so. But it is also time to introspect and discuss the role of immediate neighbors in creating and perpetuating the conflict in the region. Militarization of the protests by some countries with the aim of deflecting the struggle for dignity and political and economic rights of the people to economically challenged and more plural societies has disillusioned the people and caused untold suffering in many countries. Many countries in the region refuse to learn from the lessons of history that terrorism grows to bite the hand that feeds it. The long-term idea of creating peace and stability is being sacrificed at the altar of tactical gains by some countries. Despite the looming specter of ISIS on the region, some of the countries are less than enthusiastic in joining hands with others to defeat it. Sectarian violence is on the rise in the region, and terrorist groups have proliferated. This could not have been possible without the support of the countries within the region. Let there be no doubt that the rise of ISIS poses a threat not only to Syria and Iraq, but also to other countries and actually the whole world. An estimated 12,000 foreign fighters involved in Syria are only expected to spread violence globally when they are free from their immediate task. The declaration of an Islamic caliphate in certain areas in Iraq and Syria, and the recent beheadings of journalists, captured soldiers, and members of the religious minorities, and holding women as captives, point to the evil designs of ISIS. Reverberations of the declaration of caliphate are already being felt in Africa as well. This menace calls for a coordinated international response, but no country within the region or outside seems to have a strategy to counter ISIS. The report of some youths from outside the region, including some from India, joining the ISIS is a very disturbing trend. India has huge stakes and interests in West Asia, with two-way trade surpassing $200 billion last year, import of more than 63% of its energy resources from the region, and close to 7 million Indian citizens working in this region. The security of India and the region is interlinked, and therefore India is naturally concerned regarding the developments in the region. It is in this backdrop that IDSA has decided to hold the annual West Asia Conference, which we hope to continue for years to come. On behalf of IDSA, I welcome all the delegates to the first West Asia Annual Conference and wish them a pleasant stay in India. I also look forward to fruitful deliberations over the next 2 days. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.